let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Come on and shout it. I talk, you talk, we talk. Women talk life, it ain't no surprise. Baby, you could see if you would open up your eyes. You won't understand if you can't open up your mind. So let's stop wasting time when women talk live.
And welcome to another episode of Women's Talk Live Overnights. I'm your girl, April J.
I'm your girl, SassyScribe.
And this is Elle Boogie.
What's going on, y'all?
Hey, y'all.
And before we get into our little known facts for today, this is ending on Black History, final week of Black History Month. And so we figured we would end it with Black History, progress gaps, and, just the last 100 years.
Was 100 years. 100 years.
Can you believe it? 100 years. So
100 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. But before we get into that, I wanted to, because we've been given like little known Black history facts, so we're going to continue on with that. So the first one is about Jackie Robinson. And 5 years before he changed baseball forever, Jackie Robinson was already challenging segregation in a different uniform. He was drafted into the U.S. Army in April of 1942. He served in an all-black unit for Fort Riley, Kansas, and later Fort Hood, Texas, where Jim Crow still ruled daily life despite a federal ban on discrimination. On July 6, 1944, Robinson refused to move to the back of the bus on base and was court-martialed on multiple charges he believed were fueled by racism. A panel of 9 combat officers ultimately acquitted him, and he received an honorable discharge a few months later. Years before, he would go on to break Major League Baseball color barriers in Brooklyn for the Brooklyn Dodgers. But yeah, little known.
It was the little known ways in which they weaponize our skin it's worldwide, really. Mm-hmm. It's really worldwide.
It is. It really is.
But that's the other thing they're afraid of. I think, KL, you said it last week, that everything we get in, we dominate, which we just made history again with the first Black female hockey gold medalist.
Yeah. I did see that.
Can you imagine an all-Black hockey team? Good God Almighty.
Uh-huh. It's coming. I think
it is coming.
Ice was 1980 was the Miracle on Ice with us versus Russia, where they had the last time we actually won a hockey thing.
Yeah,
1980. We played Russia.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was a really big thing, our issue with Russia.
Yeah.
Yep. The Miracle on Ice had a movie about it and everything.
And then, wait a minute, Russia isn't in the Olympics. Aren't they banned?
No. America should have been banned, if you ask me.
America should have been banned. I'd hate to say that because the athletes worked so hard to get where they are, but they should have banned America, and the FIFA shouldn't even be in America. That should be in Canada and Mexico. Because if I was a foreign person, I wouldn't be comfortable coming here.
No, I wouldn't either. Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Over the weekend, real quick before I get into the next one, over the weekend I was watching a boxing match, and it was between black guy who was American and Japanese. And they were saying, because the fight was on Saturday, they were saying that he didn't get, because of a visa issue, he wasn't even able to fly into Las Vegas until Thursday, which is a 20 plus hour flight.
It would trip, yes.
Yeah, till Thursday, because he was having issues with his visa. I was like, oh, yeah, I know what that means. he had an issue.
Yes.
And he had the fight on Saturday night. So,
but you know, the thing of it is, these other countries, they're not going to play with. I want the other countries to literally, and I hate to say this, fucking break us. I want them to break us. We need to be broken to be put back together properly.
Yeah.
We really do.
Absolutely. All right. So our next one is about Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass understood the power of images long before the age of selfies, declaring that the cheapness and the universality of pictures were quietly shape how future generations think and feel. The formerly enslaved abolitionist became the most photographic American in the 19th century, sitting for more than 160 portraits, more than even Abraham Lincoln, who he could present himself with dignity and challenge racism stereotypes. Born into slavery in 1818 and escaping at age 20, Douglass later said in freedom, he lived more in one day than in a year of his enslaved life. And he saw photography as a great social equalizer. In his 1861 lectures of pictures, he pointed out that even the most humblest servant girl who can now own a true kindness of herself than royalty once could. Proof that a camera could elevate and humanize ordinary people as powerful as any speech.
And he went on to marry a white woman. But okay, we're not gonna. I'm not gonna disparage him for skiing in the slopes on.
But
History Week.
You know what? It's so interesting. It's so interesting because it is about people being captured. Because even like when I was in these tribal villages, they wanted you to take pictures of them because it felt like you were pretty much taking a part of them back to the U.S. And that's how they looked at it. So they love for you to take pictures and video. For the most part, most of them did, because they felt like they were being captured in their likeness and taken back, and that was their way of getting over here. So
not to mention, it proves that that you really existed. Like
right.
That this is what it is. Like, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. And a lot of the times, think of how Trump wanted all the portraits and the artifacts removed from the museums and the schools and things like that. Like, your verbal history is one thing, but to physically see it in a tangible way impacts you a lot different. That's why when families have heirlooms, they're so treasured. Like, Sassy, you have pictures of your family to go back. I have pictures of my family from the 1800s. And being able to go to a family reunion and actually witness, like, those are my people. Like, that's not a picture in a frame. That's my bloodline. It does something to you. So I agree, with him on the fact that it really does. When you go into these places, April, and telling these stories, it's like you're a griot for a group of people who've never been seen, who've never been heard outside of their environment. And that speaks volumes. Think of how people talked about Africa and how Africa was supposed to look to us. It was supposed to all be dirt roads and huts. Africa's beautiful and vibrant and, wealthy, things of that nature. And we're not taught those things. So, kudos to, you for being able to tell those stories and bring those images back, because they do matter.
So, I know my cousin just got back from South Africa, and he said that he felt, he said he felt like home. Like, soon as he landed and he just saw so many of us, he said it was like a kinship. He said, I'm not a sentimental dude, which he very, very much isn't. He said, but he said he felt like a sense of home.
Yeah, you do. You feel it.
And he was
walk off, yeah, you do. It is that feeling, and you're like, whoa. Okay. Yeah.
Soon as you walk off the plane, they said that you feel that. So I don't know. I have to put something in Africa on my agenda for my travels. I can't do the
Absolutely.
wild like April. April out there doing sitting leaving in
Look,
huts around it.
Women's talk should go there and do a show.
Oh yeah, we should.
We
Hey,
should
I'm
do a
down
show
for
from
it.
there.
We
I'm
Plan a
down
should.
for
trip.
it. We can
Look,
go.
bring our fans from all over, our viewers, bring them. Let's plan a trip.
Yep, absolutely.
Go to Ghana. Go to
Yes.
the
Yeah.
but yeah, it's certain places like I don't
Yeah.
know, it's just certain
Yeah.
places I want to go to.
Absolutely.
It's just like certain places here. I think, and I know we're off topic really quick, but I think that our age and maybe our parents' age really didn't do the kids the service that they should have and showing them the history. Like right here in the DMV is so much history that we ignore on a daily basis. And I don't like to do free advertising, but if you're in Baltimore, you need to go to the Great Blacks and Wax Museum.
You know what?
You
Amen.
need to go to
Yeah,
you need to go to the Reginald F. Lewis. You need to go to
That's
the Frederick
true.
Douglass Museum here in Annapolis. It is in the follow the Underground Railroad trail that goes through most of Maryland and
Eastern
Virginia
Shore.
and
Yeah.
in the Eastern Shore. Like Tio Pepe's in Baltimore was slave quarters. I never liked
Yeah.
that restaurant. And I couldn't figure out why.
Right.
Because I felt something. I felt a presence. I didn't enjoy myself. And once I found out the history of the place, it made so much sense.
Right.
So I think we don't do our children the service that we do them a disservice and not pointing out like the Jewish community and in drilling in them constantly about our history and how we overcame and where we came from. We were so busy giving them everything to make sure that they didn't struggle, that they don't even know what struggle is.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's interesting because when I was growing up, I remember when the Great Blacks and Wax opened, because my aunt and my uncle took a bunch of us there and really took us through there and taught us like our history, and they would take us to those places. So as I got older, and this is just me, when I got older, I took my kids to those places, or I took them to DC and the Reginald F. Lewis, because, and I did it purposely because, you know, my kids, they went to a white school, so I didn't want them to think that was the norm. You know, I wanted them to know their Black history. And my mom, you know, because her and my father grew up for the most part
in that time.
South. Yeah, you know, they taught them a lot. And like I said before, my oldest daughter, you know, I was a little concerned, but as she got older, she went from, you know, coming to an all-white school to now being a Black militant. So, I mean, it's like, and, you know, my youngest child is the one I kind of, you know, I'm like, okay, I did teach you, but she still has this flower child mentality. But, yeah.
But that's still good because she still sees she's optimistic. You know what I'm saying? She's optimistic.
Yeah,
So I think that's a good thing.
It is. I just wish the part where she just don't have any common sense.
And,
you know.
Maybe that's on her dad's side. Anyway, so I remember growing up, and I'm gonna say this, and then we're gonna go into the show. But my mom bought us, because every Black household had Ebony and Jet. Everyone. So we had all of the Ebony Black history encyclopedias. My mother still has those in the house right now. And then there's this big, huge, I noticed a tomb like that deep, full of Black history facts that she has at her house. So I would like to get it and bring it to my house, but I know I'm not going to be able to do that. I might have to just sneak one book one by one every time I visit until I get the whole catalog.
Yeah, get the whole case. Yeah.
Until I get the whole catalog, because it's just some things that they wanted to ensure that you had, and he can't get rid of those. They don't even print those books anymore.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Yes. So we're pressed for time, but let's go ahead and get into the show.
Okay. So this is Black History Centennial, and we're talking about the progress and the gaps. And if you look at the fact that 100 years ago, Carter G. Woodson started Negro History Week in February. And now you can look at everything that has happened, that has basically, this 100 years is a historical timeline of everything that we have done. So if we look at the evolution of Black History Month, it went from 1926, focused on proving Black humanity, proving our humanity, y'all. And a contribution to, when they say skeptical public, is basically to white people. 1976, we shifted towards institutionalizing Black history and public schools curricula. And then now in 2026, we're focusing on inclusive history, examining how Black history is foundational to the American story rather than a separate sidebar, because that's what this administration is trying to do. They're trying to make our contributions to the building of this nation a side note to everything else. And unfortunately, their messaging is reverberating through with their base.
Yeah.
With their base.
Right. Yeah. Because I saw something where this white guy was in front of Congress, and I think it was I forgot his name, that congressman. I think it was Tim something. I can't remember.
Ted Lieu,
no,
Asian.
No. It was a white guy, but
oh God.
Okay. I can't remember his name right now. But he was asked. This guy was saying that how white people were disenfranchised and underrepresented. And so this white guy was like, if we were to go, in history where you...
I saw that.
That white people were underrepresented. And he went down the line. Yeah. In the presidency, past presidencies,
the Senate, the governorships,
the Supreme Court, CEOs or whatever. And I mean, he made this man look so stupid. And he was
but
just
that man is a white nationalist. If we got to think about it, he is a racist, bigoted white supremacist that Trump has put up for nomination. The fuck?
Yeah. But that goes to, even like when he did something for Black history at the White House. And I was sitting there like, okay, so you're trying to erase our history. You just got something. I think it was when they took something down in was it PA?
Philly. Yeah, they made them put it back up.
They had to put, and then he was saying, before y'all start, putting in these lawsuits or whatever, you should see. We're trying to accurately demonstrate American history, and I'm sitting there like, what the hell are you talking about?
This is the man.
We were slaves.
This is the man that held the Bible upside down. I don't. Yeah. The audacity of mediocre white people elevating mediocre white people really needs to be studied in this country. Like, this man is the lowest of the low. He's not even mediocre. He will kill everybody in this country to save his ass. And that's where people don't look at. Yeah. They don't look at that. So anyway, the population, let's look at the Black population in the United States. It has grown in both size and diversity. So the recent census data approximately shows that 47.9 million people in the U.S. identify as Black, representing about 14.4% of the total population. And yet we're 80% of them imprisoned? Anyway, political representation. The 119th Congress, which was seated in 2025, reach record levels of diversity. There are currently 60 out of 435? Yeah. 60 members in the House of Representatives, and brace yourselves, 4 in the Senate. 4.
Yeah.
And if Jasmine wins, I don't know.
Yeah,
if Jasmine,
that's the whole point.
I don't know. I think we want Jasmine in the Senate, but if she loses her seat, then what? That's what we have to really think about. We look at educational attainment. From 1964, there are only 4% of Black people over the age of 25 that held a degree. And then in 2024, it rose to 28% that held a degree. So there's no secret that we as Black women are the most educated population here in the United States, which is another thing that fears a lot of individuals, because as we said last week, Black women aren't afraid of y'all. We have you look at Jasmine speaking up and Letitia James and Fonnie Willis. We're not afraid to speak up and call you out on your bullshit.
Right. Exactly. But we had to.
Unfortunately, we did have to be that way. We did have to be that way. And that's the sad part. I think we need to, anyway. But so then when we talk about healthcare, so the medical advancements have benefited all groups. However, the disparities in outcomes remain a focal point for 2026. So the life expectancy for Black Americans is 71 years old. For white Americans is 77 years old. But unfortunately, they have this thing called the Momnibus legislation that they put into place in recent years, because Black women are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes and/or childbirth than white women.
Yeah.
Well, that's not surprising. I did a documentary when I was with a healthcare company in DC. We did it with the Discovery Channel, and it dealt with the disparities of health care within the district alone, just the District of Columbia. And it's so insane, the number of, for example, breast cancer centers are in white areas where the majority, and there are none in Black areas, where women have to go every day, get their care, so on and so forth. Everything from food deserts to diabetes, like everything that affects us, we're on the lower scale of being treated and treated correctly than they are. As a matter of fact, I still have a DVD. This is a DVD. It's old, but I definitely want to send it. I don't know if we can provide a link or whatever, but it's so interesting. We had a lady talk about how she had a family history of breast cancer. And she had a story about how the ambulance and police wouldn't come to that area of the city. And she woke up to a trail of blood from the house down to the road because her grandmother's breast had an issue, and she bled to the ambulance. And so as she got older, she would be her own advocate, and she would go and ask, for breast exams, and they would say, oh, you don't have anything. And she went to her doctor. He was like, well, if you ask me again, I'm going to, recommend you have a mental examination and so on and so forth. And they did a biopsy. They didn't find anything, so on and so. And she kept pressing. Come to find out, they're biopsying fatty material, when by the time they found out, she had stage 3 cancer in her breast.
Oh my God.
So it's so important for our demographic to really be your own advocate, for you to really research a lot of this stuff, for you to actually go back to the natural and homeopathic ways that we treated our diseases and our ailments and our illnesses, because a lot of the things that we're given, even when we enter those trials, we're generally the placebo effect, where we're not getting treated because they want to see the duration of the disease, kind of like the Tuskegee experiment. A lot of times, if you look historically, which is the best predictor of future behavior, it's really not in our favor to do a lot of these things, because we're not seen as, we're more the test junkie for that aspect. So I think it's really important that we learn to advocate for ourselves, but really look at the homeopathic and healthier ways that we can treat some of these things, because we're not looked at equally within the medical system.
No, of course not. I mean, like I said, to this day, we're using DNA from a woman who
Henrietta Lacks.
Yeah, from John Hopkins, right here, and just recently they used it for the COVID. So I'm like, they're still using this woman's DNA to all these years. It's like,
but didn't they say that Black women have the Eve gene? Don't we have the Eve gene? They said that Black women have the Eve gene.
I've heard that. I have heard that.
Yeah, which is why the what is it, the placenta that they want to use, our placenta, they want to take that the umbilicum cord, what is it, the blood and the cells within that.
Yeah,
well, of course. I mean life started where?
In Africa with us, but
so
it's another revisionist history, though.
Right,
that they
and we gave Black women pretty much gave life to everything else.
are research hospitals. A lot of hospitals, Duke is a research hospital. It's not a we want to help you and get you better. They take the information that they receive from the patients and demographics that they get, and a lot of those hospitals are in Black areas, are in minority areas. So, for example, Hopkins University of Maryland, they are research hospitals. The information that
and
they get
East
from
Baltimore.
they use it to, and downtown, they use it
Yes.
to facilitate research. So you never know, like when you sign those papers, when they take your blood or they take an organ out of you or a piece of tissue or whatever, it doesn't just stop with you. You have to understand that information is going to be shared. It's going to be looked at, from a different angle from just you. So we're still being used as the process.
What's interesting? I had a girlfriend of mine years ago. We were in college, and she had gotten pregnant, and she had went into labor. So her husband was in the military. So she had called me and my girlfriend and said, "Hey, listen, I'm in the hospital." She went to Hopkins. And immediately I was just like, well, why'd you go to Hopkins? So I did. But she was just like, yeah, she said, I've tried, my husband's trying to get here, whatever. And so I said, well, I have to work. I said, but I will come later after, I get off or whatever. And my other girlfriend, she was working too. So she says, okay, well, we'll come. But then she was just like, she called us again and said, I got to get out of here. I have to leave. Like, y'all have to come get me. Like she was like, y'all have to come get me. And I was just like, well, what's going on? She was just like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. She said, they're not, they want me to do that. She was just like, and I don't feel safe. She was like, what? I need you to come get me. And I was just like, wait a minute. So when me and my girlfriend get there and try to say, we was here they were trying to tell us she wasn't there. And I was just like, what do you mean? I was like, I know she's here because she sent a text saying she is here. Do you know we had to literally sneak her out of that hospital because they were refusing to and finally, me and my girl, for some reason or another, we figured out we told her, we said, listen, get to a place, a stairwell, whatever, so that we can come get you. But
with your baby.
She was pregnant in labor. And we literally had to sneak her out of that hospital and get her to Mercy.
Now, because she didn't feel safe. My sister had her oldest son at Johns Hopkins, but I was so young. Back in the day, children really weren't allowed to go to the hospital. You had to stay in the lobby. Remember that? Yeah. They didn't allow kids to go up into the visiting area. So when we were in the lobby, but I don't remember like any of that. Everybody was like, "Oh, she went to Hopkins. That's all fancy and whatnot."
Yeah, no,
girl.
When I heard that,
and found out about Henrietta.
Right, and then my daughter, like, she had to have these tests, and I told them, I said, well, I don't. They said, well, I think it was a University of Maryland or Chesapeake Hospital, whatever. But she couldn't get in right away. She said the only people that can get you in right away is Hopkins. And I was sitting there like, I don't want to take my daughter to Hopkins. But then my mom was like, well, listen, we'll go with her. She said, but she has to have this now. So let's just go. But, we'll do all the follow-ups the other place. So I'm telling my mom, like, all right, fine. We go there. They do the test. They find out that my daughter had this rare condition. And the doctor is like, trying to explain to me, my mom, now thank God she's in the medical field because she was able to see exactly what it was. And when I told the guy, I was like, yeah, well, my mom's been in the medical field forever. She was the chief of cardiology. I said, that's why I have her here. And immediately he just went pale and was like, oh. I was like, yeah, so you can't sit here. And I told my mom, I said, excuse me, bullshit me, because she's here to tell me. So, so then, and then after that, they tried to call to get me to get my daughter to come back. And I was like, no, my daughter's not coming back there. And it was like, yeah, but I was like, no, ain't no but. My daughter ain't coming back there. I said, y'all are not using my daughter as no test dummy. I said, You ain't, no, no, thank you. I
Y'all are
said,
making me look at Hopkins with new eyes. I swear.
I swear I had no idea. I never even looked at, I mean,
What?
Hopkins actually saved my grandmother because she was at Churches. You remember Churches that was on
No,
Churches
because
Hospital?
no, I'm down
Yeah.
here. So we
Oh,
only
okay.
had Annapolis and at the time it was called North Arundel.
Right. Now my grandmother was at Churches Hospital and she was diabetic. And she had this open wound that they didn't take care of. They didn't give her medication. And my grandmother is like, she's like yelling and don't know where she is. And we had to rush her to Hopkins. And they actually, took care of her, whatever, did whatever, and then moved her somewhere else. So I never had that concept of Hopkins until my girlfriend went there and was pregnant, and they would try to keep her for some reason or another. I don't know why. They would try to keep her.
Did they give her a reason as to why they didn't want her?
They wouldn't tell her.
She
They just
left.
told her she
They
couldn't
didn't get a
leave.
chance to give her nothing.
They told her she couldn't leave. Tried to strap her down because they said they didn't want her to hurt herself or her baby, and she was just like, "What are you
What?
talking about?" Yeah, it was crazy.
You know why? You know why they did that? Because she came in alone.
Yeah,
If she had came in with a tribe,
right.
Yeah, I believe that.
that's
Right.
crazy.
And then to tell us she
alone,
wasn't there.
They were gonna take her and her baby and oh God, Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I will say this, because they are a research hospital, with my husband being, he has a debilitating immuno disease. The best person in the country that deals with his disease actually worked out of Hopkins. And I remember when we first went to him, I told him straight up, I don't fuck with Hopkins. Like, and I'm going to be all in your shit about what you're telling me but I'm being honest. Even from the first time we met, it was an incident. Like, they told me the doctor wasn't there. And he had to like be prone and me and my son had to carry him to the car, lay him in the back seat of the truck and get him to this appointment that we waited months for. And so, having worked in healthcare, I knew what the expectations were. I knew how to appropriately advocate for him. And when we got to the hospital, we're in this line, and it was post COVID. So, you couldn't go in the hospital without actually having an appointment. So I'm at the desk and I'm asking the lady about the appointment. She's saying, she calls upstairs. She says, they say he doesn't have an appointment. Bullshit. What it took us to get here, how long we waited, and the type of disease that he presents with is horrible. So I'm like, we already here. Man, by the time I got off the phone, the nurses are telling me he's not there. So I'm arguing back and forth with the nurses. Then the doctor picks up the phone. He's like, well, we didn't have patients, and what's his issue? I'm like, you've had his file for months. I've been waiting for this appointment. Like, you should have already researched and knew who you were going to be seeing. But where are you? He was like, what do you mean where am I? I said, I'm going to bring him to you. He was like DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever you want. But he's in the car now. We got him in here, and you're going to see him wherever the fuck you are. Like, real talk. So I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, because I don't care what facility. You could be home, and I'm gonna bring him to your driveway because he's gonna be examined today. Like, we're not gonna do this. Right. And that doctor wound up coming down the stairs to the parking area of Hopkins, a little circle, coming out looking like a superhero. When them doors opened, his coat flew back. He had his two nurses behind him. They in blue. He got his little white jacket. He examined them. He got a gurney. He got him in the hospital, got his blood work and everything done, and got him back out. Yes, all of that. And even now, he's like, Mrs. Ellis, I do not play with you. He was like, when it comes to your husband, other doctors, I'll be like, I will write the board about you. If you don't do that. But you have to have a different bedside manner. You got to know who you talking with. I'm being honest.
Yes,
we've been through
you do. We have been through so much. We do have to advocate for ourselves because of that. Like, my girlfriend is in health. She's down south in healthcare, and she said just during COVID, the number of people that didn't believe COVID existed as they were waiting on patients that were dying from COVID.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's just
that's crazy.
That's a whole nother show that we should.
Yeah,
we should have
some. It is.
Kim, you talked about homeopathic. We need some homeopathic practitioners that can give us some homemade remedies, regarding this, because as Black History Week or Black History Month or whatever, and celebrating 100 years, we do have a lot of things that we can fix ourselves.
Right, exactly.
Without Western
I would just not
medicine.
to just limit ourselves to a Black History Month of 28 days. We have a Black History Year. It is up to us to educate our children on who they are and where they come from, and not limit that education to just 28 days out of a year. I think that does a disservice to us. It says that we undervalue ourselves, and I think that our children would fare better to know. Real talk, when my children were little, I used to whisper in their ear when I prayed over them at night, you are a descendant of kings and scholars. Like, you have to understand, and don't get me wrong, I know everybody ain't come from kings and scholars, but I will choose to think that mine did, and I will implant that seed in them because I think that they are destined for greatness when you look at what they have the capacity to do with no experience, with no, educational background. Anything that they choose to do, if they apply themselves, they excel in that. And I'm not just talking about my children, I'm talking about brown children independent of that. So even from, teaching little kids to cook, I always tell them, I said, you got to understand, everything that's brown is better for you than anything that's white. Brown sugar better for you than white sugar, brown flour better than white flour. If that's the case from a nature perspective, what do you think from an educated perspective of who you divinely come from? What makes you better? You are innately better. That melanin is magic, baby. It's magic. You can't get away from it. And so it's important.
Put like that, you don't even think of it. So brown rice is better than white rice.
Everything brown is better because you got to think it's bleach. White chocolate, oh my God. When people talk about how much they love white chocolate, the shit pisses me off to a fundamental level. White chocolate is the waste. White chocolate is the waste of regular chocolate cocoa bean, of that chocolate that's made. White chocolate is the waste. It's the residue. But they want to be part of something so bad that's so delicious and magnificent that, they'll take that piece. White chocolate is trash. It's trash. Yeah. I don't fuck with white chocolate.
I thought it was just me, but I
don't like white chocolate.
I thought it was made out of shea butter.
Oh, I'm going to hurt you, Sassy. But and that's not being racist. Like, I really need people to understand that. Us saying that's not racist. That's factual. Like, that's a fact. So you can't deny that. The racist part comes in when you want to deny that fact just because it doesn't reconcile with your spirit and the mindset that somebody told you that everything about you was better than everybody else. So no, when you come with the realization that you are regular in comparison to anybody else, I'm sure that hurts your feelings a little bit, but that ain't got shit to do with us. It's not my fault,
If you look at everything that they've tried to do to suppress us, like if you look at the key demographics and everything that happened with us, like from 2017, we had $127.9 billion in revenue. And now if the most recent study shows from 2022, that's gone up to 211.8. So we know that our community spends what is it, 1.3 trillion in stupid shit.
I was going to say too much damn money for shit that don't get them any money back.
That doesn't give them any money back. But from 2022, that was a 66% growth. So we got to look at the other thing that, again, I said it earlier, Black women led this demographic since 2017. All Black-owned businesses increased by 21%, and their revenue surged 82%. So we now, Kim, April, and myself, we now represent 40% of all Black-owned businesses. 40%. And after the pandemic, it jumped over 20%. And because you have like the Black creators and whatnot, Black-owned businesses and major contributors to the labor market, we now employ 1.6 million people, which is a $61 billion annual payroll. And in the top sectors where we excel as entrepreneurs is 26% is in healthcare and social assistance. 14% is the professional, scientific, and technical services. 8% is in administrative support. And 7% is in transportation and warehouse. So we have our pot fingers and everything. And what they didn't put, and I'd like to see hospitality services, which I don't see in there.
Yeah.
Hospitality and travel.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the 5%. I don't know. The remaining percent, I don't know. Yeah. But we are a resilient 100 years 400-year heads behind everything, and they doing everything in their power to break us, and we still, as Maya Angelou said, and still we rise. Like
We rise.
still we rise. They trying everything. We're like a phoenix rising out of the ashes. You can't break us. You can't. You try everything. You cannot break us as a community, as a people. We understand. And again, I will say this every show. I am so proud of us as the melanated collective have listened to our ancestors and said, this is not our fight. Stand. You tell somebody stand back and stand by. That's exactly what they told us. Stand back. Stand by.
All right. So our last week poll, we asked, are you surprised that we are still experiencing first in 2026? And 91% say yes.
91? Yeah.
You know what, though? I think that that's going to be because a lot of people do not realize, that's what we're just talking about, like the history. They don't realize the barriers that we faced and how far we've actually had to travel just to get the modicum of equality per se that we enjoy today. Like, it's really bigger than you. How can I put this? This demographic,
it's the black tax, though, right?
It's not just the black tax. It's just the expectation that because you're doing okay, that everybody else is doing okay, and you have the ability to do this, that everyone else has the ability to do this. And that's not true, especially when you look at the fundamental things. Like when we talk about, I remember being in grad school and I did my master's thesis on the cradle to prison pipeline. I called it America's Modern Day Slavery. And we talked about how Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Maslow was a theorist, and he talked about if your basic needs aren't met, then you can't aspire to such elevations and opportunities. And those basic things, like self-actualization, exactly, because you're so worried about where you're going to sleep, where you're going to eat, your safety, if somebody's going to touch me tonight, is it too cold, my environment. And so you're stressing about all of these things. You really can't, excel in your school. You really can't talk about what I dream of being when I grow up, when I'm just trying to get through the next hour, the next day, so on and so forth. So a lot of people who aren't in that struggle, who didn't witness that struggle, who grew up like us, where, we want to provide a better environment for our children than we had, are so disconnected from that now it's just like, well, shit, you got the opportunity, you got the internet, you got this, you got that. They don't see those invisible barriers that are still in place. They don't see those lines of racism and the high ceilings that they place over top of growth within black business, not black businesses, but industries where you only have one black senior vice president, where you only have one, partner
director.
Exactly. So that's how you get all that bullshit, like with the monkey for was it Prada that did the little black monkey with the boy and it's whatever. Like that's how you get things like that.
Or Dove when they did you washed your body and then you went from black to white.
Yeah, like you don't have that black voice in the room because you haven't elevated your corporate intellect to the point that you actually have minorities in the room to kind of steer you back from that all white mentality that negatively impacts, because they don't even see that it's offensive, because to them it's just reality. And therefore you need to have those faces in the room.
Didn't Beyonce walk away from a deal because there was no representation?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know about her walking away from money. There was a deal. No, she
her
walked ticket away prices. She ain't walking away.
No, she walked away from money because she was doing a deal. I don't know if it was Adidas or if it was Nike. It was some brand. It was some major brand. And her and Jay-Z walked in and they sat at the table and they didn't see nobody that looked like them to represent what it is she represents. Okay. And they left money on the table.
Wow.
They left money on the table. So.
All right. So this week's poll is, how do you feel about Black progress in the last 100 years? Is there progress or is there a gap? So that is our poll question for next week.
That's a good poll question because I think, we have another 100 years. Unfortunately, I'd love to live to see the next 100 years, but I'm only going to see half of those.
Right. Right.
But I do think that it'll be progress. I think it will be progress. I just have that. I don't know. There's something in my spidey senses is tingling and telling me that things are definitely going to get better. They're going to get worse before they get better, but eventually we'll come out on the other side of this.
Yeah, because a lot of the older folks that have, because I think this younger generation is a little different than the previous generation. So.
No one has more audacity than a pissed off teenager.
Yeah. And you see that.
And you see that
with social media, you see
yes,
that.
And you see that with social media.
I think it's still going to be the powerful people never teach powerless people how to take away their power. I think that those in power are still going to enforce. It's going to take a fight. It's going to take something more than just feeling morally obligated to your fellow man.
It's going to take your body in the street. It's going to take your body in the street.
I mean,
and it's going to take and white people don't know how to advocate.
The Epstein files.
We're
not arresting.
They're waiting for us. No.
You know what I mean? We're not arresting those people because they have power.
But they have power. But you have other nations. They have not even called Prince Andrew. They have called him Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
Because he's ex-prince now. He's an ex-prince.
It doesn't matter. If the royal family can get rid of one of theirs, we can do the same. You have other countries that are holding these people accountable. What I want I want to get involved. I want The Hague involved in this. Especially to come after those here in the United
States. The Hague anymore. They don't recognize The Hague anymore.
It doesn't matter. Those people will still travel. Just because the United States doesn't recognize it doesn't mean other nations don't. So just because you're a billionaire, you're not going to stay in the United States. That's some bullshit. Your ass is going to want to travel. And if The Hague has a number on your head, then your ass will get picked up in Switzerland at your chalet. You'll get picked up in Monaco. Wherever it is you decide to go that has an agreement with The Hague, your ass will get picked up because The Hague never stops. They never stop. Yeah. But you're right. We don't have agreements with The Hague. And none of these people are going to do anything. If all of those men in the Epstein files were black, their asses would have been hung in the fucking Times Square by now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Girl, you already know.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to end it there. So, first and foremost, happy Black History.
Happy Black History. 100 years, y'all.
100 years. 100 years. All right. So, my final thought.
Thank you to those who blazed that trail for us. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So, my final thought for today. On behalf of all Black women out there, let me thank Hattie Mae Jenkins for being the first Black woman to say, "Who gonna check me, boo?"
Yes, that was my part right there.
That's a good one. Who gonna check me, boo? Yes, I like that.
All right,
Hattie Mae Jenkins.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. This is Women's Talk Live over Nights with your girl, April J.
I'm your girl, SassyScribe.
And this is KL Boogie.
All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
Women talk.